Warning, this video contains scenes of violence, gore, and loud memes. Viewer discretion is advised. Please enjoy the video. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for our next TED Talker, Announcer of Games! Thank you so much for the applause. Today we're going to be talking about the Ultramarines and... I brought this on myself, didn't I?
You suck!
So, that could have gone better. But hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of It's Dangerous to Go Alone. And again, I'll be your host, Announcer of Games. And yeah, the beginning of this video isn't a lie. We're going to be talking about the Ultramarines today. But what specifically about them? Are we going to go into their deep lore? Are we going to talk about their Primarch? No, I want to discuss something else. I want to discuss why exactly are the Ultramarines so hated in the lore community, if the beginning of this episode wasn't a good example of that.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is cancer.
So how did a faction in 40k go from this to this?
Because I, Carter Sicarius, am the Knight Champion of the Crag, and as such, no Falzino can ever hope to outmatch my legendary swordsman's skill.
And then back to this. It doesn't make much sense now, does it?
No.
So, to help make sense of this, we're gonna go back to that glorious days of 2008!
I am going to lose my house.
Oh dear god, I can't seem to escape it now, can I? First with Dead Space and now with Warhammer. Ooh, this is gonna be a good time, isn't it, children? By 2008, Warhammer would have been out for 21 years. Holy crap, old enough to drink in America. Good job, my dude. But anyway, being that old means that it had plenty of editions. We were up to 4th edition by the time of 2008. And when 2008 rolled around, we jumped to 5th edition. And how GW works is that they contract out writing out their books to different authors and writers. Sometimes teaming up, sometimes writing the books independently. In this instance, Codex Space Marines was written by two very, very important people. But the one we're going to be focusing on is Matthew Ward.
Play the forbidden note.
And holy shit! We'll always love you! I can't believe you did this to me! God damn it! How could you do this to me?
Now, a disclaimer. There were multiple people working on these books. It's not just on Matthew Ward. He's just going to be the focus of it because he's the one who wrote for the Ultramarines. But don't forget, he's also the guy who also wrote for the Grey Knights and the Necron Army books. And no, do not send hate towards this man. He is a good writer, he just made a few lore mistakes that a lot of people didn't like. Do not send hate towards him. He is a good man, leave it at that. We do not hate on people here. Unless they're total dickbags, which Matthew Ward is not. Anyway, moving on.
Magic Pain Glove. Tell me what to do.
So, a little background on what a codex is. In 40k, there are technically two rulebooks that you need to play. The main rulebook and the rulebook for your army. Space Marines tend to be an all-arounder, jack-of-all-trades army, and there's so many of them, and they're so popular, that they get their own book called Codex Space Marine, which basically has all the characters for the Imperial Fists, Salamanders, Raven Guard, all that good stuff. Ultramarines have always been in these codexes, but they were never the poster boys for it. For the longest time, the poster boys were the Crimson Fists. They were essentially the face of 40k for the longest time. And the Ultramarines, though important to the lore, as they were one of the original founding legions, as stated in multiple of the codexes, they were never the focus of these books. They were an addition to the books. In fact, they were so additional to these books, they only had one character, Marneus Calgara. And they didn't really have any lore focus until the Tyranid invasion event that happened. And then Matthew Ward was made lead writer on the book of the 5th edition Codex. And, well, to say he was a fanboy is an understatement. And to show you how much of a fanboy he was when it came to the Ultramarines, I'ma just read you some lines and some lore that he wrote for this book. And oh boy, it's like reading a fanfiction. Calgar is a proud man, a trait that has earned him more than a fair share of enemies within the Imperium's internecine politics. Yet he also possesses a shrewd self-awareness that prevents that pride turning sour and leading him into arrogance. To the people of Ultramar, Calgar is the hero of heroes, the epitome of mankind's will to endure in triumph. When Calgar travels Ultramar on tours of inspection, he is met with adulating crowds that roar his name with a passion sadly lacking in other Imperial domains. The people of Ultramar believe to their very core that in Marnius Calgar, they have a leader who will fight until the stars turn cold, not only for the Immortal Emperor, but for mankind itself. That the Ultramarines can boast the most skilled marksman of any Space Marine chapter is credited in large part to Tellian, whose admonishments and precepts of the subject of war at a distance have become a legendary far beyond Ultramar. Indeed, Sergeant Tellian has been seconded to several chapters with close ties to the Ultramarines, so that his knowledge and unique skills can more widely benefit the Immortal Emperor's cause. Oh man, this one has gotten under many an Iron Hand's skin. Antoro Cronus is the most gifted of all Ultramarine tank commanders. While most such warriors dedicated themselves to the mastery of particular vehicles, Cronus' abilities extend to almost any tank in the armory of the Adaptus Astartes. Few other commanders can match the precision of his bombardments when at the helm of a Whirlwind or Vindicator. No living man can hope to be as coldly precise when unleashing the baleful weaponry of a mighty predator. Yeah, just to rub a little bit of extra salt into that wound there, the Iron Hands founding chapter is relegated to a blurb in the bottom right corner of one page of 5th edition Codex, and they lost out on their special character because of Antaro Cronus. So, sorry about that. Tigerius has recently turned his talents to divining the threat of the Tyranids. His predictions about their movements have been so accurate that it would appear he has tapped into the Tyranid hive mind, a feat that would have driven any lesser individual quite mad. If this is true, then Tigerius will have proved himself the most powerful Psyker in the Imperium.
What did you just fucking call me?
And finally, we reach the magnum opus of Matthew Ward's fanboying and fan creation, Captain Cato Sicarius of the Ultramarines' Second Company. Cato Sicarius is amongst the greatest heroes of the Ultramarines. His titles are many: Captain of the Second Company, Master of the Watch, Knight Champion of the Crag, Grand Duke of Talisar, and the High Caesarian of Ultramar. Each reflects but a fraction of a lifetime's diligent and exceptional service, not only to the Ultramarines chapter, but to the realm of Ultramar itself.
Okay, first. What? Second?
And that was just the character section of Codex Space Marine. The entirety of the 5th edition Codex is nothing but Ultramarines dick-sucking, telling you how great they are, how amazing they are, how every chapter tries to represent them or be them, even though throughout the entirety of the Space Marines history in 40k, 4 editions worth of lore saying otherwise. And then here comes 5th edition stating that the Ultramarines are the greatest chapter. Their sub-chapters are the greatest sub-chapters. There's even lore stating that the Ultramarines went in and solved many of the issues that other chapters were having because they just weren't competent enough to do it. And an even further insult, if you were a fan of some of these other chapters that were not the Ultramarines, especially if you were the Iron Hands, you got relegated to either a blurb of information or maybe a paragraph. It was insulting to multiple Space Marine players, including those who loved the lore of the Space Marines. And it even pissed a lot of us Ultramarines players off. For one, we didn't need this. We didn't want this dick sucking. We weren't the end-all be-all chapter. Yes, in the lore, Gullyman is the one who made the Codex Astartes, But he wasn't the end-all be-all character. It was just a fun fact that this rule book that was made for the Space Marines to follow was made by the Ultramarines Primarch. Yeah, we were rules heavy as an army, but we weren't this ultimate we cannot be touched army. It was annoying, and this set the precedent for a lot of the problems that would come from this. Especially the hate that Matthew Ward got.
Should we judge him for what he likes?
Boy. Yes.
Matthew Ward got a lot of scathing critiques and a few very, very disturbing messages and things sent his way. That, though some were very fair about their criticisms, others were not. And a lot of people got bent out of shape. Not just Space Marine players, but everyone else. And we need to really separate the author from the work. Matthew Ward is just a person. He has his biases, he has his fans. It's just entirely up in the air. The man made a mistake when writing the lore. He let his fanboyness get the better of him. It happens to everybody who's writing for a thing that they love. But criticism is also very valid. This led to a lot of players feeling very just dejected from the Space Marines, that they were playing armies that just couldn't beat the Ultramarines in the lore, that the Ultramarines were just super powerful, could not be stopped juggernauts. And that causes a lot of problems, especially after Matthew Ward left. Now, it's unclear if he left from the abuse or if just other things happened. It was probably a mix of everything. And now we need to see, what did GW do to fix the image of the Ultramarines?
First he lit it on fire.
Oh, well, shit.
For the next decade, GW would break down the image that Matthew Ward built and rebuild it from scratch, starting with books that heavily targeted the Ultramarines characters, that they were egotists, they were people who believed themselves holier than thou, and when people heard about them, oh, they saw these legends! But when they actually met them in person, it was underwhelming. Or the fact that the Ultramarines continued to have loss after loss after loss, and it slowly started to shape who they were. And also showing who they were before 40k by going into the Horus Heresy, starting with the book No Fear.
It's all boy!
No Fear was the official introduction to the Ultramarines Legion and their Primarch, Roboute Guilliman. And this book single-handedly changed a lot of people's perceptions about the Ultramarines. They were egotistical, they were very analytical, but they were also the kinds of people who adapted and admitted to their mistakes. They were people that had to grow, and that alone helped rebuild who they were. And then, to add another thing to this pile of fixing shit, they released 8th edition, with Guilliman returning to the Imperium. And, along with 2 books, Dark Imperium and Plague War, where Guilliman basically saw that everything that had happened with every Space Marine chapter, what had happened with his own Ultramarines, and how he was disgusted with how they turned his military textbook into a religious book. Something that he very, very heavily criticized everyone else of doing. It was genius.
Your services are no longer required.
It is now 2023, and we are slowly beginning to enter what we believe to be 10th edition. We have had 4 editions since Matthew Ward, and it's weird. It's weird seeing this. Matthew Ward had written for a few codexes, and what he actually did write were pretty fucking good in a lot of instances. He actually also helped fix Space Marines and make them pretty decent. But everybody only remembers him for what he did to the Grey Knights and what he did to the Ultramarines. And that's not really fair to him. He did some good work in other books. He made the Necrons a fun, playable army. And although Kaldor Drago was a unnecessary character, the Grey Knights were one of the fun, most played units in all of 5th edition. They were extremely fun to play, they had a lot of interesting playstyles, and Matthew Ward was the reason for that. And you can't look at a man just for how he writes stuff. Matthew Ward, as far as I'm aware, has done nothing bad and nothing wrong. He's been pretty quiet, honestly, ever since he left GW. And after all the hate and backlash he got, honestly, I would be too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate you all so much. And I hope to see you in the next one, when we review Hi-Fi Rush.
Music player in my chest. It's powering up my new robot arm. Oh. It's making everything sync up with the beat. Let's rock. This is awesome. That's the defect.
What in the hell am I looking at?
The name's Chai, not defect.
Oh, you kids aren't even fucking ready for how excited I am. Hey, thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. And as well, if you want to support me more, go to my Patreon and subscribe there as well. You get to see videos early, and as well get updated info on how videos are going and what we're working on. And as well, if you subscribe to the highest tier on my Patreon, you get an occasional sticker as well, as an added bonus. Again, thank you so much for watching. This is going to be a regular series from now on, one video a month, along with some other stuff in between. Hope to see you at the next one. Have a good day, everybody.